Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in your day. Welcome back to Wealth Reimagined, the podcast on the Family Bloodline Network. I'm so excited to be back. I am slowly getting my setup set up. I'm not all the way set up, but I'm set up well enough where I could jump on. I don't have to be on my phone. And so I'm really excited about that and that I've made that progress. So, welcome back to the show. If you are new here, we are a community that is focused on the foundational pieces when it comes to financial literacy, financial wellness. And so, in order to get to those big milestones that we always hear people talking about, like investing and building wealth and all that, it's important that you have mastered those foundational pieces like budgeting, saving, and debt elimination, because a lot of times those are the things that prohibit and delay us in our ability to build wealth. So welcome back. I hope you all had a good weekend. Oh my gosh, I have been busy doing house stuff. Um, house Getting a new house is it's amazing. Don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of things that you do that is not part of the 3 month move-in update when you watch House Hunters on HGTV. So it's been a lot of just maintenance and little small DIYs and things like that, and just really want to make sure that everything, a lot of times it's those small things that we overlook in maintenance that can prevent a big problem, and something as simple as sealing any cracks and caulking my windows and my doors and things like that can really save me money and bigger issues over time. So as I have been unpacking and walking around and just looking at stuff, it's interesting too, all the things you notice that you didn't notice when you were just doing your showings. And so it is what it is. It is what it is. But overall, very pleased, very happy, and glad that I am not on my phone and I can be with you as I get my studio set up. So today, though, I really wanted to jump and talk about credit card debt. Over the last couple of weeks, I've seen many news reports about credit card debt and just how it's been on the rise. And so they're saying that Americans' credit card balances have reached 1.26 trillion in the second quarter of 2026. And this is according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. So $1.26 trillion are the balance, like the total balances of credit cards in the country. And as they've been talking about those numbers, I was thinking about what's going on today, like what's going on in the economy. And this is things that we've already been talking about. It could be groceries, it could be gas, emergencies, unexpected expenses. All of these things are contributing to the rising credit card debt for Americans. And, I understand that some people are doing the best they can to get by with what they have or what they need. Some people have much larger families, or they have young kids, or they got young kids in daycare. I didn't even mention daycare. And then there's people who are on fixed incomes because they're retired. So they're getting a set amount of money that, like I know Social Security, you get a little cost of living increase. Well, I'm pretty sure that cost of living increase percentage that you got was much lower than inflation. And so it's like, thank you, but this isn't enough, right? This isn't enough. And so a lot of people I know have had to turn to credit cards just for their everyday expenses. So I want to be clear though, as we are talking about this topic today, that I don't want anybody listening who has credit card debt to feel like you are some type of financial failure or to be um, experiencing or feeling some guilt around this. Remember that we always do what we think is the best thing to do at that time and in that moment. And once we know better, that's when we do better. And knowing better and doing better will be a part of your strategy moving forward. So don't, we have, trust me, unless you have been taught at a very early age before you could even get a credit card or, start buying things and getting your first job, you're very young. So, like, if you're a very young listener, you have an advantage to avoid this altogether, right? But then there's those of us who were a part of this whole credit card boom and this convenience. Oh, this is convenient, or you can get this now. You don't have to wait. And, they do disclose as long as you pay this off when you get your bill, you won't pay any interest. Then they tempt you with that minimum payment, right? That minimum payment. You spent $100 on something, and then they're like, here's your balance. You owe a minimum payment of $10 or something like that, and it gets tempting. You're like, oh, I only pay $10. But then you get caught up in this revolving debt trap. And you get caught up in a revolving debt trap on something that you should not be paying years and years to years down the line. So what I mean is some things that we shouldn't charge. And again, do not feel guilty if you've done this. We've all done it. I've done it. I've charged food, as in fast food, like dining out, hamburgers, restaurants, experiences, going to the movies, going to the amusement park. Like, we've all done it. But think about it. When you charge these types of things, just be aware that you are paying for this. One, you're paying more than what it costs because you're paying the interest. It's revolving if you don't pay it off. And then you're paying for it for years and years and years, depending on your balance. And so that's why I always say it's not that credit cards are bad. It's just credit cards have to be used correctly. And I listen to me when I say, if you are putting something on a credit card that you will not be able to pay off when you get the statement in full to zero, you probably should not be charging it. But I know y'all like, Maya, I gotta get groceries. I gotta get gas. And I hear you. I do. I understand. I'm just saying, I would be remiss not to tell you the proper way that you're supposed to use your credit card. I understand that you have these things, and so you have to do what you have to do to survive. But having to resort to credit cards for these types of expenses is the financial challenge and embarrassment for some, which is why news outlets are reporting $1.26 trillion in credit card balances. Let me tell you, I don't want to be a part of that. I do have a credit card balance, though, that I am paying down, that I've been paying down, actively paying down, haven't used it, don't have the card anymore, or anything like that. So the minimum payment is a trap. If you only make the minimum payment, So I believe it was the Obama administration that put forth the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And a high level of that was just that it was a bureau where credit card companies were required to disclose certain things to you. And so if you have a credit card and you get a statement, you'll notice a box on your statement now that shows you if you make the minimum payment only, it will take you, and it tells you exactly how long it's going to take you to pay this balance off by only paying the minimum payment. Because whatever that minimum payment is, usually, let's say your minimum payment is $15. Well, of that $15, they'll probably put like $5 to the balance, and then the $10 goes to interest. That's just for easy, to make the point. And so that's why the minimum payment is a trap. And you should absolutely, if you can, never ever only make the minimum payment. You should make more if you can. Now, I say that, but I want you to take that with a grain of salt, because that depends on how many credit cards you have. So I've gotten to a point where I only have one credit card now, where I actually have a physical card. And that card has a zero balance. And I honestly only have it. I actually stopped using credit cards years ago. And then I start using this credit card specifically only so that I would have payment history to help my credit score. And I was doing that because I knew I wanted to buy a house. And the only thing I have on this credit card, though, are my subscriptions. So it's very small amounts that go on there. And then I'm able to pay it off in full every month. And I'm also able to pay it off in full every month because I budget for the credit card bill. So it's instead of me paying those debts out of my checking account, they just go to the credit card instead. I still have line items for these subscriptions, which is I think I have one streaming service now because I canceled all the others. But I wasn't watching them all, so why did I have them all? So I have a streaming service that goes on there. I have a paper product that I have on there. And then I think I have stuff for my cell phone on there, like some storage or something. And I believe that's it. And so it's not a lot. It's an easy bill to pay off every month because I do it that way. But that was a strategy for me. That was a strategy for me to be able to get the payment history, and I'm paying it off in full every month. Now, I have been at a point where I was carrying debt. And again, I do have one credit card. All I know is how much I send to it every month. I would have to go see what the balance is. But there is an emotional side to carrying debt. I believe people who go to scripture, there's a scripture in there that talks about being a slave to the lender. And you absolutely are. I honestly would have to agree with that. And I think that mindset was the epiphany I had when I decided no more. No more. I thought about all the things I was being robbed of or not able to do or not able to participate in because of my credit card debt. I was honestly budgeting all my money out to go to bill payments. I didn't have anything left to be able to take a vacation, treat myself to something, plan something fun for my kids. Nothing. I couldn't do anything because of those debt payments. And I got fed up with it. And I said, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. So carrying debt, it takes a toll on you over time because it really is robbing you of life. You are being robbed of your life. You're being robbed of your dreams, carrying credit card debt. So, again, I don't want you to feel bad if this is where you are. Again, I have been there. Many people have been there. And then also, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, there are things outside of your control going on. Pick one. Pick one. From the things we've already talked about, rising costs and those things, to you can't eat anything. Everything's recalled. Every day there's something new. These are things outside of our control. But what we can do is shift our mindset to the things that we can control. And here are some things that we can do. Okay, I want to give you some practical to take away from listening. Thank you, by the way, for tuning in. If you haven't, please like and subscribe. But I want to give you some practical things. The first thing that I want to advise you to do is to commit to stop using credit cards. Okay? I want you to make this commitment regardless if you can actively stop doing it today or not, because making this decision, this mental decision that I do not want to use credit cards, that will force you to think of an alternative, right? You'll think, what can I do? I really don't want to have to charge this. What can I do? I don't really want to charge more food. Do I have food at home? Who do I know that has a big box store membership? Maybe we can split some of those larger items. Just I think making the commitment, even if, again, if it's not something you can immediately cut off, at least it gets you thinking. I don't want to do that again. I had to charge this time, but that's not, I do not want to use credit cards. So commit to stop using the cards. That, again, goes to the second is changing your mindset. And like I said, once you decide that you don't want to do this anymore, kind of naturally flows into a mindset shift. You're going to then start actively thinking about how you could have gone about something differently, how you could handle something differently, and maybe some alternatives. Sometimes it's rearranging things in your budget. Today, before I got started, I knew that I needed to complete my budget. I had started it and I had some things down, but I didn't complete it. And I'm like, I gotta finish my budget because I need to know how I can move out here. Okay? I need to know how I can move out here for the next 2 weeks until I get more money, right? And so that is something, if you're not budgeting, then this is all in vain. You need to know about every single dollar that you have, and you need to assign it a task. You have to. You just have to. And I had to do that. I had to think about, okay, because I moved recently, I had a lot of final bills. Those final bills are outrageous. And those final bills almost took me out because I had to me, it was an excessive amount of money going to a final bill that normally would go to something else. And it forced me to get creative. And there were things, of course, that I was not going to hurt myself on. But I did think, okay, how much do I have left here? Like for example, my groceries. My grocery budget for myself. I didn't spend all of my grocery money from my last budget. So I said, okay, I got a little rollover money. So instead of putting this larger amount, I'm just going to take my rollover money and put another amount with it to get me to my grocery budget. So, being able to see exactly what you have, taking that inventory, having like a calendar so you can see when things are due. All those things are so important. And you want to be able to know how you can move, as I did today. Let me figure out how I can move here. So once you have committed to stop charging on your credit cards, I understand that you don't have all this set up right now and you might still have to charge something, but commit. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to stop. I got to get to a point where I can stop, right? You got to be doing that shifts your mindset. You got to do your budget. Hopefully you've already been working on a emergency fund, your starter emergency fund. That starter emergency fund is supposed to be that buffer for when something comes up so you don't have to charge. Because remember, $1,000 is not that's not sufficient, right? For like a true emergency. But that's that, oh, I don't need to charge this, right? But all of these steps play a part. So having that starter emergency fund, you already got to be working on your mindset to know when you're supposed to tap into that. So let's assume you budget. Let's assume you have your starter emergency fund. And so now we're going to jump into creating a debt payoff plan. So there are many, right? There are many. I could go into many different payoff strategies, but for sake of time, I'm just going to talk about the two most well-known payoff strategies. The first one that a lot of people use is called the avalanche method. And the avalanche method means that you will list out all of your credit card balances, but you will list them in order of highest interest rate down to the lowest interest rate. And then you pay only the minimums on the one that is not the highest. And the one with the highest, of course, you have to pay the minimum. But then anything extra you can send to it, you send to that. And so the avalanche method is the most financially smart approach because it's saving you money. You're like, oh, let me knock out this high interest, right? But sometimes it's like you're not making momentum doing the avalanche. And that depends on your situation, right? That depends on how many cars you have. That depends on, the balance and the minimum payment and your income. So the one that I have felt the most success with is the snowball. So the snowball, similar to the avalanche, except you are listing your credit cards by lowest balance to highest balance, not interest rates. You can still list your interest rates, but you are doing it in order of what's the lowest credit card balance I have, and on down to the highest credit card balance. So this method, a lot of times you feel like you're actually making some progress because that lowest balance that you have, you're able to actually get it paid off. You're like, okay, I owe $78 on this card, and you can tackle it first, and then you're like, oh, I got it paid off. It took you 2, 3, 4 months to do it. It's just depending on your budget, if you have money, extra money in your budget, or the ability to send extra or not, right? But you're able to tackle that first lowest balance card. And then once you pay off the lowest balance card, whatever you were sending, the minimum and the minimum plus what you have, if you have extra, you take that minimum and that plus and you add it to card number 2's minimum. So now you're able to send more than the minimum on the next card. And that helps you get it paid off faster. And you keep doing that all the way down your list until you don't have any more credit card debt. Now, in order for that to work, you can't be charging anything on the cards. You also can't, after you pay it off, use it and add a balance to it. That goes against the whole point, right? So that's why the first piece of advice that I gave is to commit to stop using them. So those are the two most popular, the avalanche. And the avalanche works the same as the debt snowball. Is once you pay off that high interest, you then take that payment and add it to the next high interest card, and then you pay it off. Again, sometimes the momentum don't build as fast on the avalanche. It just depends on your situation. If you have like a really high balance, like car, that balance is so big, it's gonna take you a while. You're just only gonna be paying and focused on that. You know what I mean? Instead of tackling the smallest balance. So, some things I do want to bring up are things that I've heard on these news reports about credit card debt and what they're suggesting. I've heard some suggest that you transfer your credit card to a zero balance credit card. And I've also heard them suggest that you get a debt consolidation loan. So these approaches can work. It just depends on your financial situation. That might not be the solution for you. And if you are someone who maybe lacks the discipline, then 9 times out of 10, all you're doing is transferring and moving your debt around. You're not ever paying it off. If you don't have the ability to set up your own payment plan, so let's say you get it transferred to 0% interest, first of all, you're going to pay a fee for that transfer. There is probably a like 3% transfer fee, up to an amount, or something like that. You're paying a fee. That fee could be more or less than the interest you're already paying, right? So they already getting money out of you that way. You pay the fee, and then it depends on how long you have 0%. If you're not able to take your balance and divide it by those months so you can have it paid off before it starts charging you, then the 0% transfer thing is not for you. It's not for you. The debt consolidation loan. So the debt consolidation loan, it could be good. A lot of people find themselves attracted to this idea that I would rather just have one payment every month than sending all these payments to all these credit cards, right? Okay, yes, one payment is fine, and that sounds good, and that's nice. However, if you're gonna still use your credit cards after you've paid them off with this debt consolidation loan, you've just created yourself another payment. You have to, what did I say first? Commit to stop using credit cards. No more credit cards. No more credit card using. We're not using credit cards like that. No. If we're using credit cards, we're going to use them the correct way. If you want to get out of debt, transferring or paying off all those balances gives you your one payment, but then you can't use the credit cards anymore. What are we doing? You just gave yourself a new bill. Here's the thing I also don't like about debt consolidation loans. Your debt consolidation loan is a new fixed monthly payment. As your balance goes down, your payment stays the same. What I can say about a credit card is at least as I'm paying my my credit card balance down, my minimum payment goes down. Now, I'm not saying now pay less. So let's say we're doing a debt snowball. And I'm not saying as your minimum goes down to lower your minimum, you're going to lock in your own minimum payment. And one day I'm going to do an episode just on the debt snowball. But what I'm saying is, if something were to come up, if you're paying your credit cards down, you're not using them. If in the event something came up where you didn't have a choice, you needed more than your 1,000 that you have set aside for an emergency, right? At least now that your minimum has gone down, you can reallocate some funds in your budget to handle whatever's going on over here. Still make your minimum payment, because now it's not $50, it's $25, right? Because as your payment goes down, as your balance goes down on your credit cards, so does your minimum payments. So I'm not a fan of that new fixed payment, because when I was in credit card debt, I was in a lot of credit card debt. I was in a lot of credit card debt. And I prefer to have the flexibility to, if an emergency came up with my children or my mom or whatever, my vehicle, I felt like I had more wiggle room and flexibility, because yes, I've been paying my credit card down and my minimum's gone down. I used to have a card that my minimum was $100 and something. And so as I got that card paid down, the minimum also came down. And I like having that. So that's just something to think about, with those options that they're pushing. Remember, financial literacy and personal finance is not one size fits all. It's going to always depend on your individual situation. And that's why it's important for you to know your situation. If you've been listening for a while, you've already gone through the steps that we discussed during Financial Literacy Month. And if you haven't, go back and listen to those episodes, because you should have already taken inventory and gotten organized, and you know exactly where you are. You know exactly where you are. If you haven't done that yet because you're new, go back and listen to those older episodes so you can see where we are and what we're talking about. So, but yeah, that is really, really what I wanted to go into today. And I want you to be thinking about how you can move away from this revolving credit card debt cycle, and how to be a better steward of the funds that you have. And, let me know if this is something that you feel like you would like help with. I have been thinking about ways that I can better support my viewers, and things that I can offer to assist beyond and allow you all to go deeper into your own situations. So let me know if this is something you would like help with. And what I mean is, do you need someone to review your financial situation? Do you need someone to coach you on making your budget, finding wiggle room, eliminating expenses, so that you can then create this emergency fund that I'm saying is so vital to your success? So then that you can now find ways to start paying the debt off. So let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you all. I've been brainstorming some things, but I would love to know if I'm on track with what you're thinking and what you need. So that is my time. That's my time. Again, it's really good to be back. And as we are getting closer to ending this first season of Wealth Reimagined. I am also trying to think of some ways to really just celebrate season one and a way to have a really fun, cool season finale. We'll see. I'm not promising anything, but I really would like to be able to do something special for you all. So, but please have a great week. Leave comments, questions, reach out to me if you have questions about anything. But in the meantime, remember just staying consistent. It's not about perfection here, it's just about being consistent. Being consistent will get you where you want to be. Remember to keep a focus on your goals, and we're going to together reimagine wealth and get to where we want to be. So, you all have a great week, and I'll see you next time.